Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has a new book coming out next week called The Chief's Chief. And of course, he's trying to do what he can to drum up book sales. You've got outlets out there printing excerpts of it, printing, some pretty salacious claims from the book. And one of the claims making the rounds this week is that Donald Trump had actually been diagnosed with COVID-19 days before that first presidential debate with Joe Biden. Had been diagnosed with COVID days before meeting with Gold Star families. The families who had lost family members overseas in military conflict. So these people were already suffering. These people had already experienced tremendous losses. And he knowingly exposed them to COVID? He knowingly, willfully, maybe even intentionally exposed Joe Biden to COVID? Now, Meadows says that the first positive test, that he received was September 29th. No, I'm sorry. That was the day of the debate. He had received the positive diagnosis about 3 days prior to that. But of course, then he took another test, and that test was negative. So they decided to run with the negative test instead of the positive test. And of course, in that 3-day span, you had the Amy Coney Barrett, little celebration in the Rose Garden that later did become a super spreader event, met with the Gold Star families, and then debated Joe Biden. And then, little time after that, is when they came out and said, oh, no, he's got a positive COVID test. We're taking him to Walter Reed Hospital. We're totally going to be on top of this. And no, nobody else has a reason to worry. They lied to us. As they always did, by the way. That's not the shocking part. The shocking part is that he willfully exposed these individuals in multiple different occasions to COVID-19. And you have to wonder at this point, was that intentional? Obviously, he has nothing to gain from giving Amy Coney Barrett COVID or giving Gold Star families COVID, but he damn sure would have had a lot to gain from giving Joe Biden COVID. And I can't help but wonder and question whether or not that was intentional. Joe Biden's 3 years older than Donald Trump. And admittedly, he looks to be in better shape. Obviously, he does not have the obesity problem that Donald Trump has. Not an attack on him. That's just the way it is. I know I'm there too. It's okay. But 77 years old, this was prior to vaccines coming out. COVID could have killed him. Could have killed either one of them. So that is a huge, huge issue, and I think we deserve more answers to this than just a couple of paragraphs in a book by Mark Meadows. Because Mark Meadows is not out there basically trying to trash Donald Trump. He still likes him. He is trying to sell books, though, so you gotta make claims like this, but I'm willing to bet most of the book is very positive about Donald Trump. So did he knowingly and willfully and intentionally expose Joe Biden to COVID-19? He knew. They knew. The White House knew that he had that positive test. And it was far more likely for the positive test to be correct than it was for the negative test to be correct. It's easier to get a false negative than a false positive, is what I'm saying. And I don't know. I want answers to this. I want more than what is in this book. I want to know how many of the people that were around Donald Trump in those days later tested positive for COVID-19. I want to know how many people he got sick. I want to know what happened to them after they got sick. I want to know that these people are okay now and that the former president of the United States, the current president at the time, didn't kill people by giving them COVID-19. I want more answers, and I think the entire public wants more answers too.